What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Corbin, the Serpent Tongue Skipwith.
And Ren, the Berserker Marabou.
And
this is
SAGAS.
SAGAS.
Try number 5.
That's pretty close.
We're getting there. Number 6. Number 6 to 1.
Yeah, next week, man. Yeah, cool.
All right, well, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And just like it was advertised by our brilliant editor, photographer, whatever we call you, Ren, posting it all over social media, we're going to be talking about the 2004 album by Cradle of Filth, Nymphetamine, which is impossible to spell.
Yeah, man, Nymphetamine, man, what an album. I mean, I've been very familiar with Cradle of Filth over the years. I've heard the name. I've seen them in various TV shows and whatnot being mentioned, but I never really gave them a chance. You know, I've heard a few songs. Obviously, Nymphetamine, the track Nymphetamine Fix, was one that you'd hear kind of, you know, on the rounds, just journeying through the metal life. Well, this week I actually gave it a go on your request or endorsement, let's say, and yeah, I was surprised. I liked it. I really enjoyed it, man. I didn't realize they were with Roadrunner during this particular album, so I probably would have given it a bit more of a chance if I knew that, because like I always dig Roadrunner bands. You know, they picked them good. But so this was their sixth studio album, was it?
6, yeah.
So I think I read they've 13 albums altogether. So this was just under the midway point, or you could say midway.
Yeah.
And they just come off the back of an album that was released through Sony. So they just got this huge budget and everything started really going on the grander scale for them. And then they just went all out war on this album.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was going to say, because look, the last album that they made, I'm pretty sure was Damnation in a Day, which was the official album before this. There was a few other things, like a few compilation albums, Lovecraft and Witch Hearts, but Damnation in a Day was the album. For seeing that, and it's like, what I find amazing is since 1990, I think 1997, they've been releasing albums every year. So this is a yearly, like, banger after banger after banger. Like, it's just how, like, and then touring, writing, and all the orchestral components, just like Dimmu Borgir. It's like, I don't know how they released a new album of this magnitude every year.
It's outrageous. It really is. I mean, you know, I like to be quite prolific myself, but the production is way smaller, as you know. But just the work ethic and churning it out. But it's funny that you say Dimmu Borgir, because I think, you know, they were, you know, side by side along the way. But I think Cradle of Filth really broke out a little sooner, and Dimmu really, you know, flourished because of that. I think they kind of opened the gate for the boys. They were both standing at the gate, but they opened the door. You know, made it a little bit more accessible. But yeah, dude, I think, what have they, 800,000 sales in total, album sales? Like, that's hardcore. That's very impressive. Like, I think I heard Metal Hammer said that they're the biggest metal band since Iron Maiden. You know, so
oh wow, that's quite the
from England, most likely. Yeah, not in the world, I wouldn't say. It scared you for a second. But yeah, a lot of people have, you know, like I say, I never gave this album a go until this week. Really, I'd heard bits and pieces, but I'd heard people over the years, like even yourself, saying it's like the opius. It's their, you know, kind of a game changer one, really. But I don't know. It was grim. It was pleasant and grim.
Yeah.
For me this week, you know, I did enjoy it. Like, but it's funny going back to Dimmu. As far as I know, Cradle of Filth have had 19 different members over the years as well, which is, as guitars I know exactly the same as Demu. It's like as if when one gets rid of one, it's like, oh, I have to get another guitarist now. Keep.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sorry. No, I was gonna say, like, for this album, this was the last album to feature. Interestingly enough, they had a member who was also part of. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the rock group Anathema.
No.
They had a member of that. I'm pretty sure he was playing keyboard or something like that. But like bringing in like an outside, really popular, really famous member. They brought him in on their last few albums, Midian and Damnation in a Day, and this was the last album to feature. I forgot his name, but to feature Martin Powell. That's his name. He was the keyboardist, yeah. And this is the last album with him on it. But he did work for the previous 2 albums, and he's just amazing. The keyboard on this album is just amazing.
Oh, it's riddled. It's all over it. Like it really is. It's fine work. But speaking of members, they brought on I thought James McElroy was brought on this album, but I heard yesterday someone told me that he was on the album beforehand. So I can't say for sure, but I don't think he lasted long in the band. I think his guitar playing was just a little bit stiff. You know,
yeah.
From a guitar player point of view, like I don't like talking bad about anybody, but like, speaking of another member that done a phenomenal job, which I was really excited when I found out that he was actually playing drums with them. I've always been a big fan of The Haunted, you know, Swedish metal maniacs, and people nowadays probably know them a lot more because of Ola England or England, the solar guitars owner, YouTube extraordinaire guitar player, man. He was in the band with their drummer Adrian from Cradle of Filth. They were like Ola came in years later, but Adrian was one of the founding members of The Haunted. When I found out, because I absolutely love the band, I love his drumming style, and I was really intrigued then when I was listening to the album, because you know me, I love a good drummer. And I was listening to the drums the whole way through the album. It was like my main focus, apart from Danny's outrageous vocals. But yeah, he done an amazing job on the drums, and because he's in the band, I'm actually going to spend a lot more time listening to him now.
Yeah. you know, I was going to say, I'm going to tell you a story, right? Because I've been waiting to tell you this story because it directly entwines with this album. And this was my gateway to heavier music, so to speak. So to all the listeners and obviously to you, when I was younger, I used to work with my dad, who's a truck driver. I used to help him as just the extra set of hands. I would help him in the truck, and yeah, this was before I found a full-time job. And during one of our lunch breaks, he gave me the pocket money, whatever, and I found this metal store. It was like a black metal store, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, we got like an hour to kill. I'll go there." I went inside, you know, full cliche black metal. This dude working there, gothic makeup, like collared spikes, tattoos, pretty intimidating dude, but he was really nice. And I said to him, I'm like, "Look, I have $20 and I'm really into the band Cradle of Filth. I looked into them. They sound pretty cool. What album would you recommend?" He looked at me. He knew I was vanilla. I had not listened to any heavy metal in my life. And he gave me this look of concern. And he said to me, he said, "Before I give you a recommendation, tell me right now, what's the heaviest band you've ever listened to?" And I said, "Metallica." He shook his head. He's like, "Oh, this is bad. Like, you're vanilla." Like, he's like, "Look, I'll give you this album, Nymphetamine." He said, it's not the heaviest stuff, but if you can't handle this album, you can't handle." And I bought it. I had it on CD, and I've loved it ever since.
Brilliant, dude. That actually really reminds me of a funny story of where I used to hear a lot about Cradle of Filth was, like I said at the start, TV shows and stuff, you know. And do you know the English TV show, The IT Crowd?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So there's a character. He's like a very small character in it, but he's all in the goth makeup, and He's very morbid, and he kind of I think he lives in like the back of the office, and he's like a vampire. He comes out every now and then. But during it kind of sounds like your story. At one point of the TV show, there was like a funeral, and there was a woman mourning, and this guy just comes up. It was Noel Fielding, the actor from the Mighty Boosh, but he came up with a wrapped in like a present kind of wrapping paper, and he hands it to the woman that was with the black veil over her head, all upset and stuff, and he goes, "Here, this is an album by a band called Cradle of Filth, and it's I think he said something like it's beautifully sad or something." And he goes, he handed her, and he goes, "I especially like the song Cannon Fodder," or was it Cannon Fodder?
Yeah, Coffin Fodder. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Coffin Fodder.
Yeah.
And you was just looking at him going, "What a freak!" but yeah, it was that same kind of vibe. But that's funny. Yeah, it is. I suppose they do get a lot of stick, don't they, from the black metal community. I like, you know me, man. I like to branch out and expand every genre. So like all those purists that ridicule them for trying to be bigger than just this sub genre, then I don't know. I think that's whack.
Well,
but yeah.
No, I was gonna say, like, it is interesting because I was just about to bring that up. If you listen to their first album, The Principle of Evil Made Flesh, that is by all means a black metal album. That is, in my opinion, as a Cradle of Filth fanboy, that is their one and only black metal album. It's pure black metal, and then after that, they start to spiral more into, as they're described now, symphonic extreme metal. They really deviate, and the main thing, which is the one thing I want to ask you about. You've been avoiding this question from me for a week. I don't really know why, but every time I've asked about it, you've never given me a clear answer, and it's confusing. I just assumed you're going to save it for the podcast. But the main thing that differentiated Cradle of Filth from the black metal roots that they started with was the high-pitched vocals by Danny Filth. And yes. I want to know, what is your opinion? Like, what was your reaction to Danny Filth's ridiculously...
Yeah, right. Well, to me, straight off the bat, I heard that for years and years. I heard that Danny has a 5-octave range, which I always found, incredible. that's an outrageous range because there's only 7. So if he's and as a dude, and he's able to go up that high. Like personally, I have worked my ass off for 20 years on my vocal range, and I'm just scraping an E1 to a 5E or E5. So that's 4 octaves. So he's able to go like a full octave more. And like, the fact that he can do it with the gravel and all the extra tonal, like he has like sub harmonics going on in his voice. And it's absolutely outrageous. Now, some people might hate the sound of it, right? Some people might love it. But you can't take away the fact that it's mega impressive. It's like he might overdo his fry, I think, on his tracks. Sometimes I think his false chord is amazing. That deep gutter roll, sub octave kind of is his forte. And I think his fries, when he goes right up to that top octave, because he can do it, I think he overdoes it. Now, who am I to say? Like, that's just my opinion. But you can't take away from him. He is an impressive man. Like, the vocal range that I aspire to do is within that ramifications that I'm at. Like I say, there's like four octaves, and like Chris Cornell, David Lee Roth, all them kind of singers. That's where they were, and obviously they're way better at it than I would be, but just the notes. But Danny, when he's singing live, he goes for those fries, that very top octave the whole time. And it's I don't know, like that's the kind of stuff that you do in the studio, and you wouldn't go out on the road and do it because it's dangerous for your voice. It's very difficult. And, you know, when you've done it on record, you kind of don't need to do it live, but he does the whole time. Like, you know, you see him live and he's just giving it socks every time to hit that top fry. So, so anybody who doesn't know what I'm saying about fries is the when you really reach that top harmonic of the scale. Yeah, I'd love to do you an example right now, but I think I blow out the speaker.
Nice. Yeah, look, you know what's interesting, because you brought it up way earlier in this recording about the guitar, but the one thing I find interesting is, as someone who has listened to all their discography, I would say 2010 backwards. I've listened to multiple times their albums, and this is by far their most guitar heavy album ever. Like it's to me, it's real thrash influence. Like there's a lot of guitar solos, a lot of guitar heavy tracks, which if you go back even just an album prior, Damnation in a Day, it is nowhere near as guitar focused. So I find it really interesting that they went for that more guitar heavy approach when previously they didn't have to do that.
You know what? That probably is, dude. It's because they had the producer of the album was Rob from Anthrax.
Yeah.
So obviously being in one of the big four, he was a guitar player. That's his whole thing, you know. So I think he pushed them in that level, and I think with the criticism that I would put in of the lead guitar stuff being a little bit stiff, it's probably a bit mean, because they were trying something new. They were trying to get more into the lead harmonies and all that kind of stuff. It's like it says, they've so many different guitar players ever since. Their current guitar player is a badass. I can't remember his name now, but he's very cool. I seen him a couple of weeks back on an English reviewer guitar channel, and he's just really down to earth, like, you know, Northern English guy. That's the thing. They're all really down to earth, just like even Danny Filth. He seems like this big character from like another planet, but when he's chatting, he's just like a lad from Suffolk. You know, he's cool. And but yeah, so like they never really try to be bigger than they are. They try to push their limits a little bit. Obviously they get incredible results, but if you're nitpicking, you know, on certain elements, then I suppose you'll always find little cracks. But I think the work that Rob done producing this was amazing. When I heard it was him on it, it all made sense then, you know, like you say, with the guitar work and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a long album, isn't it, bro? Like, long album.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because to me, this album feels like such a tragic, like a tragic, dark fairy tale meets thrash. Because, you know, for example, you have songs like "Filthy Little Secret," which I actually love that song because it's so guitar heavy. There's just so much. It's like, what is it? It's 6 minutes long, and there's so many guitar solos, so many guitar riffs. It's just like and you know, like I guess I'm talking from a biased point of view because unlike you, I've actually studied their discography for years, but like you can't tell how badass this sounds unless you've gone back and just seen how little guitar, well, not little, but how less guitar focused it was, because their other albums are more orchestral, they're more dark, they're more like kind of like early Dimmu did, very similar to trajectory. But it's like on this one, as you said with Anthrax, it's like, fuck it, we're gonna stick to our roots, make a tragic, dark fairy tale, but we're gonna add in that element of guitar. And to me, hearing those two worlds combined, especially since it's so rare for them, is just such a iconic moment.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you can hear in songs like Gilded, See You Next Tuesday. We'll keep it PC. Gilded, See You Next Tuesday. There's some chunky riffs in that, man. And, you know, we love the riffs here. And you can really see that they were trying to sound good for Rob. Or maybe Rob had an influence on the riffs too, but they've done a real good job on the riffs. I can't say anything bad about the rhythm element of it. They properly nailed those parts. But one song in particular was like Nemesis as well, was a wicked track. I loved the marching drum beat almost. It was quite Viking like. If they were to give me that track, give me the stems, I could turn that into Viking metal in a few minutes. You know, like stick some vocals about Odin on it. Like it's really cool. Like I like that. And that's where the melodic death metal kind of starts to creep in. There's a few moments of that. It's funny that you say about Filthy Little Secrets, because to me it's mega punky almost, isn't it? It's like it's got like that punk pace. And then there's like major chords thrown in, which was real surprising, like, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and there's like a real happy kind of, like you were saying with the guitar stuff, the solo in that track is quite boppy. It's kind of happy. It's quite a cheerful one. It's like, it's so strange to hear in the middle of this big sinister sounding album, like, you know, with Danny screaming of all sorts. But yeah, it was really cool. And you can actually hear Danny's like we were saying, his fry vocals, his fifth octave vocals in that track in particular. I think it's because the major notes sit a little bit better, or major chords sit a bit better in the mix, and just give him a bit more of a chance to kind of like stand out. Because that's one thing I found about this album, and I don't know who mixed it, but the fact that Rob produced it does make it a lot more guitar heavy. I think the vocals, I don't know, is it stylistically, does Danny do that on all the records? Is it kind of like a preference that he goes for, to have his vocals ever so slightly down in the mix?
Well, actually, no, in their first few albums, so we're talking the two albums after they broke out from the black metal, so Dusk and Hair Embrace and Cruelty and the Beast. That was a lot more, how do I describe this? Like a lot more just demonic, like vampire-esque. It was very at the front, very just intense. So it's really, I think, just in my opinion, the way I see it, and obviously I don't know Danny Filth, so maybe I'm wrong. But to me, he, with the orchestral and the symphonic, you know, feel of like all his albums, I guess to him that takes precedent over the album than his vocals does. So he's like, look, I'll take a step back just a little bit. I'll lower it down so that the instrumentals can breathe. That's just how I feel.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually a good point. Yeah, I could see that now, because there's a lot of choirs involved. He uses almost in every chorus and majority of verses, there's like this really powerful choir, but it's all like soprano stuff. You know, he doesn't go for any. It could be a choice. I could be wrong here too. Like, but what it sounds to me is that there's no tenors, there's no bass end of the choir. It's all that, like I say, sinister, spooky, witchy kind of choir. So that's resting just midway in the mix, and his vocals are just sitting below them. So I suppose, and then obviously there's all the orchestral stuff. So it would be a tricky one to mix. So I think probably a solution to all of that would be to bring the vocals down ever so slightly. But yeah, it's interesting because, you know, for being such a big character, you know, larger than life sort of dude, having his vocals down, it kind of goes to show there's a lot of character in that, you know. He's not all glory and wants it for, you know, for him to come across. I really like that. It's interesting for a band of his stature, because he's a millionaire, like, you know what I mean? He's a world famous millionaire. I looked up his net worth. I think he's worth nearly 5 million. And for an extreme metalist, that's pretty cool. Like,
yeah,
you know.
But, you know, the one thing I want to emphasize about this album, and this actually goes for, and this is why I'm such a Cradle fanboy, because I think this happens with every one of the albums, but because we're talking about this one, the way that Cradle of Filth as a whole, the way they do their intros to all their tracks, it's just, you know, to me, the way I see it, it's like a chef creating this gourmet meal and then going out of his way to add the black truffles or to add the golden sprinkles. It's like, here you go, this is already a gourmet $100 meal, but here's the 24K gold fucking milkshake to go with it. Like, it's just, he doesn't have to go that hard, but you can tell it. To me, it just proves the intricacy, the care, the love he's putting into all of his songs and all of his albums.
Yeah, well, that's it, and that really shows where even the the running order of the tracks is the very last track is the big single. You know, I've never seen a band do that before, to put their big whopper single as the final track on like I say, a mega long album, an hour and 16 minutes practically long. Like, that's a long album, and there's so much going on in it. To me, I took that as that's how confident they were about the album. You know, they didn't have to put the single on earlier, because if that was me and I had that track, Nymphetamine Fix, I would have had that on the first track. You know, start out with the gate running, like. But yeah, no, I thought that was really impressive, like. And you know, going on to that track, you know, I love a good guest vocal, you know.
Yeah.
Your woman Liv, Christine, I think her name is, she done a really good job in that track as well, actually. And when I found out as well that she was in Leaves Eyes, or Leaves Eyes, and Alluviate, I was really impressed too, because like they're Norwegian and German and Scandinavian members, all, you know, so they have that the Norse kind of vibe. Like Leaves Eyes, a lot of their songs will be Norse mythology based, and Alluviate as well. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, all these extra things just drew me into this album, you know, all these different members. And she done a really good job. But we could talk about that particular song for days, because there's so much in it, and then there's two versions of it, right? So
the Overdose.
Yeah, the Overdose. Like, I'm gonna save that for a little bit later on in the chat, I think.
Nice.
But yeah, yeah, man, I just, you know, he in that song, he does do incredible low, deep, raspy vocals. Like, you can't take away from the man's you know, you hear some lads, and I'd be a victim of that too. You get a song, and like, this could be a good thing or a bad thing that he does, I don't know, but like, for me, if you have that sort of range, you know, use it. You know, for some lads, like, they're be like, oh, this is the song where I sing low, this is the song where I sing higher. Danny just wants to do everything in every song, which is just like, you know, he's a maniac. He's not even concerned about what way it's going to affect him later on tour. He's literally just like, I'm going to make this sound the most badass, like you say, vampire-esque, you know, movie kind of vibe that there is. But I seen he put up on Facebook himself, Danny, that there's did you ever see the movie Cradle of Fear? So Danny, it's from a movie, anybody who doesn't know, it's a movie from the late 90s, I think. And Danny stars in it. It's really like low budget, cheesy type movie. And I don't know whether they use Cradle of Filth music in the background. I presume they do. It was a long time ago, but it's on Netflix now. If anybody wants to see Danny Filth starring in this really bad kind of horror movie with a similar name, Cradle of Fear, I recommend checking it out, because I love those naff old kind of horror flicks, low budget stuff. So yeah, that's something for you to look out at after you listen to the album, and then go listen to that or watch that.
You know,
yeah,
I was gonna say, like, because we're talking about vocals and stuff, one thing I want to bring to your attention, because it's like I just completely forgot until just now, on the album that's after this, that follows, an album that I'm pretty sure the album that's after this, Pornography, there's a song called The Bionic Man that features Kim's Valvello as a guest feature.
Oh, no way.
And
wow.
Yeah, it's like, it's so cool, because you got Danny's crazy vocals, and then him, Valvello's like soothing chorus. But, you know, the one thing I want to touch on is, and, you know, when I was young, this band got me into dark poetry, into writing. I love literature now. I love writing, obviously, as a reviewer, but Danny Filth's lyrics, his dark poetry, to me, he's the best metal lyricist of all time. I said it. I don't give a fuck. Like, to me, I love reading his lyrics, because he's such a talented lyricist.
Yeah, well, that's it, man. He's a grim poet, and like, you know, a lot of his lyrics, a lot of bands in this similar genre would make their lyric content way more direct, way more obvious of what they're talking about. I do love the way he does make it quite a bit, like I said before, of other artists, that's kind of more abstract. And it's interesting because he carries over from previous. Oh, I'm after breaking something there. Previous albums, previous albums, and carries on the story. I don't know if this is true, but I heard there was one track, "Her Ghosts in the Fog." Is that a track? So I heard that the story of that song carries over to a swan song for a raven on this
Oh,
album.
I didn't know
So
that.
there's some story about this. Some character had to seek revenge because of the death of a loved one or something like that. But the story ends up coming over onto this track, and which I thought was it was a beautiful track because it has a lovely intro, and because I had the word raven in it, it stood out to me. You know, Odin and his ravens. So straight away I was like, yeah, I'm digging this song. And it has this lovely soprano vox again, that lovely soprano stuff. But then it takes like a mad twist. But apparently the long story of that, it turns out that the guy from the previous song, "Her Ghost in the Fog," ends up it never happened. He was dreaming or something, and he wakes up in a jail cell. So like, you know, it's a really detail. I can't even explain it. Like, and I have it written down in front of me. It's like I can't really explain it, but it just goes to show the intricacies of how he writes. You know, and it's it's a lot of effort. You know what I mean? Like as a songwriter myself, sometimes you just want to just throw down a couple of words and get the job done. But he always takes that part of the job really seriously, and I know it's fair play to him now. Yeah, he's a good man.
Well, I have a question to ask you before we go into our final segment. So, because I want to hear from a band's perspective, performance perspective. So, hypothetically, if you had the budget that Cradle of Filth had to make an album, would you be able, do you think, would you be able, like, so if you had the budget and someone said to you, all right, you have to make 5 albums in 5 years, 1 album a year, is that ridiculous? Even with this budget?
Yeah, it's still pretty ridiculous in the sense that you have to have there's money element, but you have to have the creative vision. And it's like yeah, anybody can churn out songs, but if you're doing it on his level, you know, and I say his because he's the visionary. Danny is like the brains behind this whole thing. And it's real obvious with, you know, the costumes. I mean, the detailing. Sure, he's always wearing contacts and everything. Like everything is fine tuned down to the last little creative idea. And yeah, I think churning out albums like that on that level of such quality with such depth and a huge amount of people involved. I think the album before this, when they were on Sony, it was like the Dimo Borgia album where they had like 100-piece orchestra as well. There was some people said like 40 or something, but Danny actually said himself in an interview, he was like, no, it was like 100-piece orchestra, and now we had the choir, you know, and it was just because he had the money, you know. So that yeah, I think having the money is one thing, which obviously helps a lot, but you have to have the vision, the creative side, and the actual ability to write. And pulling it all together is, like I said about Timo Borcher, it's a logistical nightmare. Trying to get 3 or 4 mates over to rehearse in a house is a nightmare, let alone a big orchestra and then recording it all that kind of way, you know. So hang on, my door, somebody's knocking at my door. I'm just knocking back. It's like the producer saying, time's up.
Nah, it's all good. We got one last segment and then I'll be good. But so it's time to play Devil's Advocate. I don't have a bell. I never. Yeah, you can be our bell from now on. I never have a bell. Ding. All right.
Happy.
So,
Right.
do you want to start or me?
Yeah. No, we'll go for something that I like. Will I? Before I know, Devil's Advocate is the stuff that we're not so fond of, but I didn't get a chance to talk about Nymphetamine Overdose. That song is absolutely kick ass, bro. Like the riffs at the start of that just draw me straight in. It's full on, it's badass. Like there's no let up. And then all of a sudden it's in this magical, weird, like I said again, sinister, melancholic kind of vibe. Which is the Nymphetamine fix. Just thrown in the middle of this badass track, you've got like this centerpiece of sorrow and sadness, and then you've got kick-ass metal either side. Just it's just lovely done. Like it sounds like it shouldn't work on paper. That idea probably sounded a bit naff, but they pulled it off really good. But anyway, I digress about what I like about it. Let's do the Devil's Advocate. I like this. I like the whole introduction and having the opening orchestral piece. I think that's a really nice thing that bands add to albums. This particular one, though, for me, because I can't fault any of the tracks really, except for some guitar stuff. But again, that's just a taste of preference, really. I'm so used to listening to guys like Richie Kotzen and Jimi Hendrix, where everything's all vibrato everywhere, and a lot of feel. I suppose it's probably a bit unfair to say that in a metal sense, but I'll probably get ridiculed for that. But I really liked the middle track. Painting Flowers White never suited my palette.
Yeah.
It's an orchestral piece. It's a short one. I was thinking at first, I was like, it's wrongly placed. If that was me, because it's in between two of my favorite tracks. Medusa and Hemlock is a kick-ass track, number 8. And just before that, you've got this, beautiful piece of music, but it's in between Nymphetamine Overdose and Medusa. And I think it's like my favorite kick-ass ballsy one, then goes mellow, and then it's like kick-ass ballsy. So if it was placed somewhere differently, I probably wouldn't have had anything bad to say about it. I don't really. It's a beautiful piece, but I think they should have put that as the opening introduction and got rid of the introduction track altogether. I think that one has that more nice, beautiful orchestral vibe that they were looking for at the start. I don't know. That's just my preference. But so if I was to pick a track that I wasn't digging, I'd probably say the first intro. I don't even know how to spell it, bro. No, intro song.
Fair enough.
What about you? What about me? What about you, brother?
All right. So once again, I think we agree on something. The Nymphetamine Overdose. I love that track. And the one thing that I was surprised that you didn't mention is that you've got the badassness and then the Nymphetamine mix, but then it goes back to the badass. After the Nymphetamine, it just goes straight back to the badass riff, which I think is obviously badass. So to me, that's like my favorite track. But if I had to choose one that I wasn't very fond of, which has to be the hardest here, because I love all these tracks, but for Devil's Advocate purposes, for me, it would have to be English File. I don't know, I love the intro. The intros to all these songs are amazing, but the intro to this, and then, I don't know, if I had to choose one, I don't know why, English Fire would be chosen above all the rest. So that's my pick.
Yeah, no, I get that too, because it has a funny mix, that song. That's like a piano intro, and then it kind of throws you. It's a bit of a curveball, that one, I think. But I think that was a fair fair Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, for once we didn't agree on the last song.
Yeah, right.
Devil's Advocate. This is the first time.
Happy days, happy days.
Oh, we didn't even play. Good thing we never played Devil's Advocate for SAGAS.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I'd have had loads of bad things to say about that particular
song. Come on, like I'm just happy I'm just happy right to your face I didn't have to say a bad song, so that's good. All right, so what do you want to promote, or like any sponsors you want to shout out or anything at all?
Yes. Well, I suppose, you could be listening to this in the coming weeks in two different locations. Well, obviously our usual YouTube and Facebook, SAGAS Metal Podcast, but we're very lucky and there's a lot of people interested, and this week is going to be the second time we'll be aired on Inner Demon Radio, Inner Demon Media, Sid's show, the Delinquent Ball. So also being episode 5, I think we'll give a shout out to OG Big Sean from United Music Mafia, who also is going to be adding the show to his TV channel. So that's really exciting for us, isn't it, dude? So yeah, there's that, and I suppose I'll give a shout out to Iron Age Guitar Picks, because this week I've announced my endorsement with them, and they've made me the most badass signature guitar picks. I haven't even had a chance to send them to you, dude. They're ebony. They're made of wood, ebony wood, and they have the Berserker symbol on it, and they're absolutely gorgeous. So a big shout out to them. Them guys have worked absolute magic for me. But other than that, we are working on gigs, trying to get some gigs going. There's quite a few really badass offers. So that's all in the pipeline. So that's what I'm at for the week. What about you, bro?
Well, I've got 7 days left till my vacation is over, and then I'll be back. So I've already legit in my vacation, I've already got like 3 or 4 people sending me asking for reviews. So it's the work's piling up. I'll be going back full speed once I get back. There'll probably be a few interviews along the way. And other than that, yeah, just keep tuning into our podcast every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I'll be uploading it tonight. And yeah, like Ren said, we've got a few different sources you can listen to it. Delinquents Ball, and maybe soon on the United Music Mafia streaming. And who knows where we'll go from there. So keep a lookout. And if you want to tease everyone with the new album we're going to talk about next week.
Oh yes. So next week we're going to chat about an album that I absolutely love for a long time. It's been a close album to me. It's by a band called In Flames, and the album is called Come Clarity from 2006. So that should be fun, bro.
Oh, the same. Oh no, 2004. Don't worry. I was going to say the same year as this one, but no.
Yeah. Well, we're around the same time with all these albums, so it's that sort of generation we're working on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a good podcast, and yeah, we'll see you all again next week, same time.
Same time, same place, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, or not. What was that thing? Same time, same thing, or something.
Or something, yeah. Same time, same place, or something.
Or something. All right. It was good seeing you again, bro. And we'll talk, obviously, on Facebook. And to everyone else, same place, same time, or something.
Skull.
See you later.